वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभं निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ द्वितीयोऽध्यायः। अर्जुन उवाच। Now Arjuna speaks in response to the whipping words of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna told that Kutastva Kashmalam Samapastitam Vishame, and it is Anarijushtam Asvargyam Akirtikaram. It doesn't befit you. Klaibyam Asmagamaf Partha Shudram Hridaya Dorbalyam Tyaktva Uttishta Parantapa Uttishta. This sorrow, it is Akirtikaram, it is Asvargyam, doesn't give you Swargaloka after Maranam. So give up your this mean-heartedness, unmanliness, weakness of your heart. Get up and fight. So to the words of Sri Krishna, this Anarejishtam, Klaibyam, these are all very powerful, strong words. So therefore, Arjuna, he responded saying, and his response because of confusion. He himself says, Karpanya dosho pagata subhavaha. I am confused. Trichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. I am confused with regard to what is to be done. What is dharma, what is adharma. Dharma, adharma, viveka. I am confused. Because of compassion. Even though the Duryodhana and others were enemies. In fact, they were not enemies, they were cousins. But Arjuna was ready to fight. Before seeing Drona and Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, the thought of Guru Sudana really haunted Arjuna. Therefore, he could not find any solution on his own. Therefore, intelligently asked the help. At the time Shri Krishna was there. In fact, he asked Shri Krishna to be on his side, to be his charioteer for this purpose only. Because he knows that Krishna is a good mentor, good advisor, instructor. Therefore, knowing very well, he appointed him as the driver, not as just the driver. He drives a chariot, he drives a war also. He drives a person to the destination, ultimate destination. Therefore, who else other than Krishna could help Arjuna? Therefore, he surrendered and asked Shreyas, Yata Shreyaha, Yata Shreyascha, Tata Nishchitam Bruhi, Aham Tava Shishyaha. So here, Shishyaha and Shreyaha, these are the two very important words. Therefore, Shreyas and Shishya, that is going to be discussed a little elaborately here. What does it mean to be a student, a Shishya? The words Shishya and Shreyas go together. Once you say, I am a Shishya, and you ask for Shreyas, there is only one meaning for that Shreyas. being a Shishya or wanting to be a Shishya and expressing that I am your Shishya and asking for Shreyas, then it can be only one meaning. There could be only one meaning for Shreyas. Although it can mean anything good, anything topical solution to a topical problem, any medicine or treatment, Shreyas here as an absolute meaning. Shreyas means good, but I am your Shishya, you please, Yata Shreyaha, that which is good, that good is ultimately good. That Shreyas as an absolute meaning. Because Arjuna says, I am your Shishya, please teach me. Therefore, the absolute meaning is conveyed. Shishya can also mean many things. There is an archery Shishya, a dance Shishya, both of which apply to Arjuna, as well as many others. In all of them, one factor is missing, surrender. Arjuna's guru, the master in archery, master of archery, who taught him archery, Dronacharya. But Arjuna did not say, probably not said, Agamsa, Prapannaha Asmi iti. So nobody would have said before, only to Sri Krishna. I surrender. Another important word. Surrender. Only the Shishya who asks for Shreyas surrenders. Therefore, by asking Krishna to teach him, Arjuna became a Shishya, a disciple. Since teaching he asked, therefore, Arjuna became a disciple. He himself says, Aham tava shishyaha, shasana yogyaha shishyaha. That is from the shas dhatu, shas anushishtau. Shishya, deserved to be taught. So Arjuna himself considers a disciple, a deserved disciple of Krishna. So deserved disciple of Krishna. So as a student, he surrendered himself to Krishna. As we saw earlier, there are three words in Sanskrit for the student. Vidyarthi, Vidyam Artyate. Those who seek Vidya, knowledge, Vidyarthi. Antevasi, those who live with the Guru in the Gurukulam for certain period of time and learn, gain knowledge. Antevasi, Samipe Vasati, Antevasi. And another word for student is Shishya, Shishyaha. Vidyarthi can be anyone having a desire for knowledge. Everyone wants to know everything, but that doesn't mean that effort is made to gain knowledge. And Antevasi is the one who makes this effort. This type of student goes to a teacher, joins the ranks, joins the courses, enrolls in the university. That doesn't mean he or she understands what is being taught in the class. The student may simply be sitting there accomplishing nothing. Antevasi. So Vidyarthi is one wanting to gain knowledge. Antevasi, one who puts effort and stays with the Guru and learn. The third word for student is Shishya, which refers to a student who is qualified to be taught based on his or her capacity to understand. That is very important. Shasana Yogyaha, deserved to be taught, qualified to be taught. By using the word Shishya, Arjuna was stating that he thought he was prepared to learn what Krishna had to teach. His compassion indicated that he was mature, but because of a certain lack of understanding, there was a confusion with reference to dharma and adharma. Dharma sammuda chetaha. Because of this kripa, paraya kripaya vishtaha. Arjunaha dharma sammuda chetaha. Therefore, Arjuna wanted to solve this problem much more fundamentally. Arjuna wanted to solve this problem much more fundamentally. He just doesn't want the problem to be treated for its symptoms. He wanted to solve the problem going to the root. He could not but think of his sorrow, which is a human problem. He had discerned sorrow in a situation where sorrow was not expected. Arjuna would never expected sorrow in the battlefield. In fact, he would have come with courage, the determination to fight and get back Hastinapura. He could not proceed with the battle because he did not see any favorable outcome, nothing that he could be proud of, and thus his mind went elsewhere. Where does the mind go in such circumstances? It comes back to oneself. This is where culture comes in. Without culture, one becomes a hobo. In Arjuna's case, his culture, maturity, his upbringing, his lifelong commitment to the values of Dharma, adhering to the values of Dharma, the various privations he underwent for the sake of Dharma, all of this had paid off in this particular coming back to himself and saying, I don't think that even a heavenly kingdom could remove the sorrow that is in me. This is a big discovery. So he has understood the basic problem, sorrow. Even Suranam cha Adipatyam, even if I get the heavenly kingdom, Asapattana, Bhuma Asapattana, Asapattana Viruddham, Samruddham, Rajyam, Suranam Apicha Adipatyam. The entire world belongs to you, and not only the earth, even the heaven, the Swargaloka, everything, but still the problem of sorrow that cannot be solved. So, for different people, different situations in life, makes them discover this problem, and that problem, this sorrow, that's just a problem, and that is problem samsara, problem of samsara. So therefore, the mind comes back to oneself. That is why with the person who is brought up in this culture, he will come back to himself, and he will come back to himself and discover the problem, and he seeks help for solving the problem. That is going to the Guru and asking for teaching, because this is a problem of samsara, discovering the problem of samsara, which happened to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. Therefore, sorrow was therefore the problem, and Arjuna had always heard that there was only one way of removing it. How? He had to become a Shishya and get Shreyas or Moksha, liberation. Arjuna would have heard, he has got some paperback knowledge. He would have heard from his seniors, from gurus. The only solution for the problem of samsara is gaining moksha, liberation. So therefore, only for moksha, for liberation, sannyasa is a prevalent, the fourth ashrama. For the people who have gained maturity in having experienced enough, and in terms of everything, they have gained experience, and therefore, fourth ashrama take to sannyasa and they work for moksha. So therefore, since he knows, therefore, he wanted to go away from this normal, this life, wanted to take sannyasa. Therefore, Shreyas. Already that thought of sannyasa came to his mind, and therefore he asked for Shreyas, and therefore he surrendered to Krishna and became his disciple. Therefore he did both of them. To be a Shishya, he told Krishna, I have surrendered to you. You are the one who is going to deliver the goods. I am your student. In this way, Arjuna surrendered so that Lord Krishna could do what was to be done. And when Arjuna surrenders to Bhagavan Krishna, Krishna would not dismiss him. Definitely, he would help him. And here he asked the help, which is not an ordinary help. He asked for teaching, knowledge. Shreyas he wants. Therefore, Krishna definitely would help in the form of teaching him. And thereby the confusions in the mind of Arjuna, even with regard to sannyasa, etc., all would be resolved. That is going to be the subject matter of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Now, having said Arjuna kept quiet, then Sanjaya reports. Sanjaya reporting to Dhritarashtra, the next shloka number 9. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva rishikesham Gudakeshah parantapaha nayotsayiti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaha. Now Sanjaya said, Sanjaya uvacha. What does it say? Evam uktva, having spoken, having told, to whom Rishikesham, who told Gudakesha. Both are Isha. One is Gudakesha, Other one is Rishikeshaha. Gudakeshaha is Arjunaha. Gudakanam Ishaha. Rishikeshaha is Sri Krishnaha. Rishikanam Ishaha. Guda meaning tamas, or sleep, or inertia, slothfulness. Gudakanam Ishaha. Arjuna has mastery over laziness, tamas. Therefore, Gudakeshaha. And Indriyanam Ishaha. Indriyas, they are lighted up, because of which, that is Chaitanya, Brahma, Rishikeshaha. So Rishikesham to Krishnam, Sri Krishnam, Gudakeshaha, who is Parantapaha, Paran Shatrun, Tapayati, the scorcher of enemies. Having told thus to Rishikesha, what Nayotsya, is finally says, I am not going to fight. I will not fight. The Govindam Uktva, one more word for Krishna, Govindam. Gobihi Vedanta Vakyehi, Vindate Labate, iti Yaha, Ishvaraha, Krishnaha, Bhagavan, Narayana. It's called Govinda. Govindam Uktva, Tushnim Bhuvavaha, became silent. Became silent means expecting reply from Sri Krishna. So Sanjaya said, having spoken to Rishikesha, Lord Krishna, Rishikesha is Lord Krishna. Having spoken to Rishikesha in this manner, Gudakesha, the Arjuna, the scorcher of enemies, saying to Govinda, I shall not fight, became silent. With these words, Sanjaya informed Dhritarashtra of the most recent events of the battlefield, as he had been asked to do. Wanting Krishna to teach him Shreyas, Arjuna has said, I am your Shishya, please teach me. Arjuna seemed to know the profundity of the word Shreyas, a word mentioned often in the Shastra. It is mentioned in the Kathopanishad, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushya Metaha. That is how the Kathopanishad introduces Vedanta, the topic of Vedanta. Tau Samparita Vivinakti Dhiraha. Shreyascha Preyascha Manushya Metaha, Tau Samparitya Vivinakti Dhiraha. Shreyogi Dhiraha Avipreyo Vrinite, Preyo Mandat Yokakshemat Vrinite iti. Shreyaha Preyaha. Shreyas is Shreyo Marga, that is the path which leads to the ultimate good, Moksha. Moksha Purushartha ityarthaha. Whereas prayers, all other Purushartha, Dharmartha Kama comes under prayers. Therefore, the one who is after Shreyas is called Shreyorti, Moksharti. The one who is after the Arthakama, Dharmarthakama, Dharma also, they are Prayorti. So that is Shreyas, the word, important word. It is used in the sense of moksha in the Shastram. In the Kathopanishad, there is a story about a young boy, Nachiketas, who went to Lord Yama, the Lord of Death, and received 3 boons. He encashed the first in favor of his father, who was angry with him. For the second boon, he asked to be taught the ritual for gaining heaven. This boon too was for the sake of others. The last boon, important boon. Lord Yama granted Nachiketas both of these boons. Then one boon, the last boon, is left out. Nachiketas encashed the third boon for himself. He wanted to know whether there was a self, an Atma, other than the body. Why? Why he asked this? Because Yayam prete vichikitsa manushye astityeke nayam astiti chaike etat vidya manushishtastvayaham varanam yeshaha varastritiyaha. This is my third boon. I want to know whether Atma astiva astiva after that Ayam Prete, Vichikitsa, that's doubt with regard to the people, who have gone away, after the death of the person. Is the Atma survives, or it is the person dies, which dies, everything is gone. There is doubt with regard to that. Some people said there was, some others said there was not. There is Atma, some say there is no Atma. Because Charvakas and all, they don't believe, they don't accept Atma. For them, the Sharira, Vasmi Bhutasya Degasya Punaragamanam Kutaha. Therefore, only Rinam Krutva Yutam Pibet. This Dega is going to become Bhasma one day. Why? What is that? How is it possible for it to come back? There's no way of coming back. The Shariram will never come back. Gone is gone. I am this Shariram, Shariram gone, gone means gone forever. So therefore enjoy the life. Iti Charvaka, materialistic philosophy. So therefore some people say Atma not there, some people say Atma is there. It survives Maranam. Therefore that is a doubt. So, therefore Rachiketas wanted to know that. It means asking for Atma Jnanam. He told Lord Yama that he wanted to be taught about this Atma. And there was no one more qualified to do it than Lord Yama. That also he says, there is no Shishya like Nachiketas, and there is no Acharya like Yamadharmaraja. Who else can be a Yogya Purusha to teach Jnanam, to teach Atma Jnanam, to give Atma Jnanam? Lord Yama. He is a Lord of death. So therefore, who else can be more qualified to do the job of teaching other than Lord Yama? So it's a beautiful combination. Yamadharmaraja is a guru and Shishyaha is Achiketas. Therefore, only Achiketas, he was very particular. He insisted on getting this teaching, the knowledge of Atma as a third boon. In spite of Yamadharmaraja, Yamadharmaraja's attempt to entice him, he did not budge. At first, Lord Yama discouraged him, but finally, he decided to teach Nachiketas because Nachiketas was so determined. He's a sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha adhikari. Therefore, Lord Yama told Nachiketas that there were always two things available to you, human being, Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas is chosen by one who is a wise, a Viveki, whereas everyone else chooses Preyas, prosperity and pleasure, Artha Kama. And Dharma also comes under Preyas, Dharma Artha Kama. Artha in keeping with Dharma, Kama also in keeping with Dharma. That is Preyas. That also Shastra accepts, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong asking for Preyas. But asking for Preyas that shows the maturity of the person. Shreyas, on the other hand, is moksha, liberation. The freedom brought about by self-knowledge, Atma Jnanam. Nachiketas asked the Lord Yama for this Shreyas. Because Shreyas can be used in both a relative and an absolute sense, it is important to know what it was that Arjuna was asking for. Here, the Shreyas, what Arjuna asked, is it in a relative sense? Or Shreyas in absolute sense, meaning moksha? So, therefore, that has to be discussed. But Arjuna said another word, Shishya. Shishya Shreyas. Therefore, Shreyas has to be moksha. What else? And asking Bhagavan Krishna to teach. Therefore, teaching is involved. Shastram is involved. Therefore, it has to be moksha alone. So, as the word, the Shreyas itself, the word, it can be used in the both sense. Now, we have discussed to see that, to understand that Arjuna asked for moksha. What he meant by the word Shreyas is moksha. Whether Arjuna wanted it or not, Krishna understood Arjuna's request only in terms of absolute Shreyas, not in the ordinary sense. The absolute meaning of Shreyas is absolute fullness, Purnatvam, that which is good for me, good for you, good for everyone at any time and place. That which was good for Arjuna was equally good for Duryodhana, if only he had ears for it. If Duryodhana had asked for it, and if he is a Shishya, Yogya Purusha, then that knowledge would have been given to Duryodhana also. And here, without asking, Dhritarashtra is getting. Sanjaya also fortunate Dhritarashtra, but are they ready? That's the question. In spite of this knowledge, Duryodhana did not, Dhritarashtra, even though he was indirect recipient of this knowledge, but he was not benefited because he was not ready, not matured. So therefore, that which was good for Arjuna was equally good for Duryodhana, if only he had ears for it. If Duryodhana had said to Krishna, I am your Shishya, please teach me. And if Krishna had considered Duryodhana a qualified student, he would have taught him the same way. Whenever and to whomever Shreyas is taught, it is always taught the same way because it is knowledge, jnana. You cannot tamper the jnana with knowledge, tamper the pramanam and therefore the knowledge. So whether it is Duryodhana or Arjuna or Dhritarashtra, it is going to be same, jnanam only. Only thing is, the receiver must be a qualified person, Shishyaha, Shasana Yogyaha. From Krishna's point of view, then the Shreyas Arjuna asked for was this knowledge, which is moksha. In the wake of this knowledge, there is no sorrow. Because this is the teaching of the Gita from beginning to end. The Gita is a moksha shastra, a body of teaching meant to destroy shoka. Gita is a moksha shastra. It is not a book for solving temporary problems. It may, but that is not the purpose it is intended for. It is a moksha shastra. It is a body of teaching meant to destroy shoka, sorrow. Sorrow means samsara. The symptom of samsara is sorrow. So shoka nivrittihi by jnanam and therefore moksha shastram. Knowledge is something that cannot be personal. Although it has to be gained by a person, any knowledge is always true to the nature of the object of knowledge. Very important statement. Knowledge is always true to the nature of the object of knowledge. The knowledge of a thing is always true to the nature. You cannot use your free will. You cannot use your free will and try and understand the object to be something else. Not possible. You cannot use your free will. Your free will, in fact, it is suspended when knowledge takes place. And therefore, the knowledge is as true. It is always true as the nature of the object of knowledge. Prama is always true to prameya. Prama cannot be different from prameya. You cannot operate your free will to change the prama of the prameya. When the eyes open, you see the flower. Here, where is free will? The knowledge of the flower, that is the rose flower, rose. The knowledge of rose. Rose is there, the object rose is there. The knowledge of rose, the knowledge is always true to the object, the nature of the object of knowledge, that is rose. It doesn't depend on your free will. The knowledge doesn't depend on your free will. That is what is said here. Important statement, knowledge is always true to the nature of the object of knowledge. It is not something that is centered on your personal free will, but on the object of knowledge. For example, if the object is a flower, it is a flower. There is no choice, no free will in knowing it as anything other than a flower. If there is something more to know about a flower, then you can know it. Its botanical name, which includes its family and so on. Whatever more you come to know about the flower, it's always jnana, because knowledge is always as true as a subject, as the object. It is not determined by one's will. Therefore, knowledge of a thing is not going to differ from person to person. So whoever operates the pramana, the knowledge has to be the same. The knowledge of and the nature of the object of knowledge, it is the knowledge of a thing is always it is about the nature of the object of knowledge. Therefore, that cannot change from person to person. The perception of rose and the knowledge of rose is going to be the same for everyone when the person opens the eyes and perceives, provided the pramana, the eyes are functioning properly. If there is problem in the pramana, then the knowledge may differ. That is due to the defect in the pramana, chakshurindriya, pramana. But there is no free will involved in knowing. There is no free will involved in knowledge. And therefore, knowledge is as true as the object. It's always as true as the object of knowledge. So, relative shreyas, next one. There are two types of shreyas, relative and absolute. Now, relative shreyas. Usually, what is good for you at a given time, may be not good for you at another time. For example, a particular drug may be a cure for your illness, although it is also a poison. Thus, what is good for you at one time is not good for you at another time. Also, a certain medicine may be good for only one problem and not any other. Alternatively, the drug that treats your problem may not be good for someone else with the same problem because the other person's allergic reaction to it. Because of the other person's allergic reaction to the medicine. This kind of goodness is what is meant by relative goodness. Something that is not applicable universally, not applicable in the same way to all the people. It keeps on changing. That's why it's relative shreyas. What is good for me may not be good for you. What is good for me at a particular time may not be good for me at some other time. So therefore, that is relative. Shreyas meaning good, and in the relative sense, relative shreyas. Therefore, it depends on desha kala and nimitta. Something that is good is determined by place, that is desha, time, kala, and situation, nimitta. Even ethics and values, dharma shastra, which we generally consider as absolute, have to be interpreted from time to time. Because dharma shastra is to be interpreted. It cannot be considered absolutely good. That is why the smriti, manusmriti and all, they're all based on what is taught in the dharma shastra, manusmriti, based on time, place, and nimitta. So that which was applicable in Krita Yuga, not applicable in the Kali Yuga. Therefore, only it is subject to interpretation. Interpretation also, not only with regard to time, even with regard to the place. So the values, ethics values, that changes. There is no absolute. The ethics values which in Dharma Shastra teaches, that changes, subject to changes. Subject to change in keeping with the person, the time, place. So many other factors are involved. Therefore, that cannot be absolutely good. Then what is absolute shreyas? The absolute shreyas that can be only is moksha, jnanam. Jnanam is moksha, moksha is jnanam. Jnanena moksha, therefore moksha is jnanam. So absolute shreyas, that is what Arjuna asked. For relative shreyas, you need not be a shishya. For absolute shreyas, you have to be a shishya. Because the word shishya is there, therefore what Arjuna asked for is not relative shreyas. It doesn't ask for any temporary solution. He wanted a permanent solution for this problem of samsara. Therefore, absolute shreyas. Then what is absolute shreyas? If there is something that is absolutely good, it must be something that doesn't change at any time and is always the same for any person. That is what meant by shreyas here. Arjuna's sorrow led him to ask for this shreyas, and Krishna understood what he wanted as absolute shreyas. Absolute shreyas, also called moksha, is a complete acceptance of oneself. That's a beautiful definition of moksha. Complete acceptance of oneself. That is moksha. Then what is samsara? Self non-acceptance. That is samsara. Self non-acceptance is a cause. Is samsara, it is a cause for sorrow, dukkham, and therefore the solution is complete acceptance of oneself. Self-acceptance implies a self that is already acceptable. It doesn't mean you have to accept something new. It is already acceptable. It is myself, already acceptable. If I'm not acceptable to myself, positive thinking cannot give me self-acceptance. The self, the Atma, is unfolded in the Gita as already acceptable. Along with how it is acceptable and how it is free from limitations. Acceptable means Atmanastu Kamaya. Everybody loves oneself. It is already acceptable. Atma is self is one. Self is that which everyone loves. Atmanastu Kamaya. Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. Everything is loved for the sake of oneself. So therefore it is already acceptable. Now we have to discover this already acceptable self. Because it is covered by ajnanam, ignorance. Therefore, discovering the already acceptable self and complete acceptance of that is Shreyas Moksha. The one who is happy with oneself has nothing more to do. Such a person is one who has checked off all the items to be completed, to be fulfilled that are on the list. He or she is a free person. Throughout the Gita, we are told that the self is acceptable And this acceptable self alone is what everyone is seeking in life. In fact, to Dharmartha Kama Purushartha also, what one is seeking is this acceptable self. And moksha is the exclusive pursuit. When Duryodhana wanted the kingdom, he wanted only self-acceptance. He wanted to see himself a person who was acceptable to himself. And he was acceptable to himself only when he owns the Hastinapura, when he is Raja, the king of Hastinapura. Without a kingdom, he could not see himself in this way. Without a kingdom, he could not accept himself. Therefore, the whole war fought for acceptance, self-acceptance, even by Duryodhana. Therefore, he wanted the kingdom. In the process, of course, he had conflicts. He was cavilled at by so many people, and he had wronged so many people. In the process, he had done so many wrong things. He had taken to adharma. Then when adharma is there, then how could he be acceptable himself under such circumstances? So, wanting to accept, self-acceptance, wanting to accept himself, it took the means of adharma. Therefore, he became more and more non-acceptable. He became more and more non-acceptable, therefore, had more and more conflicts, and that had brought him even to the Kurukshetra war. Therefore, you should be acceptable to yourself without a kingdom, without any addition, without even the physical body and its condition. Because self is already accepted, it is full. Nothing needs to be done to improve the self, to make it more acceptable. It is already accepted. Therefore, no addition is required. The kingdom is an addition. The name is an addition. Therefore, without these additions, it is acceptable. That should be discovered. And that is what Arjuna wanted. Duryodhana was not ready for it. But Arjuna, he discovered the problem, and therefore wanted this answer, solution in the form of teaching from Sri Krishna. Therefore, you should be acceptable to yourself without a kingdom, without any addition, without even the physical body and its condition. Only then can you accept yourself. If the body is something based on which you have self-acceptance, you are in trouble. Because the body will change. The body which was yesterday is not the same body which we have today. Every moment changes. Asti jayate, vardate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinashyati. Finally destroys. The child body, what I had, not now, it is now adult body. It will become old body later. Body keeps on changing. If you have abhimana, strong abhimana with the body, then more and more you will have self non-acceptance, because for you the self is a body and body changes. Therefore, there is conflict, therefore non-acceptance. So, therefore, if the body is something based on which your self-acceptance, you are in trouble. Because the body is not going to remain the same. The self might have been acceptable yesterday, but not today, because the body has picked up a new problem. The body is time-bound, anityaha. It is subject to change, vikari, agamapayinaha. It keeps on changing. Therefore, in the morning it is acceptable and the evening it is not. We find then that if the self depends on any other factor for its acceptability, it is not an acceptable self at all. The self by itself, in its own glory, should be acceptable to you, for which it has to be free from any limitation whatsoever. The self is a whole, Purnam, doesn't require any additions. In reality, there is nothing other than the self. What is there is only Atma. This vision is unfolded in the Gita in such a beautiful verses in the 9th chapter. Astani sarvabhutani achagam teshu astitaha achamastani bhutani iti, the 9th chapter, Rajavidya Rajagugya Yogam, important chapter, that Bhagavan Krishna unfolds. All beings exist in me. I don't exist in them. Astani sarvabhutani achagam teshu avastitaha. And in me, there are no beings. Achamastani bhutani. This means that while I don't depend on any of them, they all depend on me, depend upon me. This is the vision of the whole unfolded in the Shastra. as the meaning of the word Shreyas. Therefore, Shreyas is you. You are the meaning of the word Shreyas. You are the meaning of the word Moksha, freedom. It is already gained. It is already gained. It is accepted, self-acceptance, accepted self, discovering the accepted self. It is already accepted. Therefore, moksha is also siddha, but you have to discover it. When you don't know, when you have ajnanam, ignorance, that ajnanam as though covers this jnanam, as though covers this self, not jnanam, as though covers this self. Therefore, there is ignorance of the self. When ajnanam is removed by teaching, then you discover the already acceptable self. You don't have to accept the self as something new. It is, you will discover it is already accepted. It is myself. Everything, everything in the world, or whatever you do in the world, it is always for this self-acceptance. And when you discover it is already accepted, you become free. There is no pressure, there is no agenda, and therefore there is no samsara, no dukkham, no sorrow, no shoka. Therefore, Shreyas is, where does the Shreyas lie? Shreyas is you. You are the meaning of the Shreyas. Shreyas is you. Until it is gained, Shreyas is an end, as it were. Therefore, Shreyas as an end, until it is gained only. But you are the Shreyas. So therefore you don't have to go anywhere to find the Shreyas. It is you. Once gained, it is not separate from you. Even before gaining, it is not separate. Once gained is also not in the literal sense. It is not something gaining physically. Gained is in terms of knowledge. Once gained, it is not separate from you. It is you alone. You are Shreyas. Arjuna asked for it and he got it. If Arjuna had wanted ordinary Shreyas, relative Shreyas, he would not have told Krishna that he was a Shishya. Nor he would have told him that he was surrendering to him. Therefore, two important words. All this indicated that Arjuna wanted to gain absolute Shreyas at this particular stage of his life. Having surrendered to Krishna, Arjuna left everything to him. Krishna didn't have to decide whether he would teach Arjuna or merely urge him to stop blabbering and fight. Fortunately, Krishna taught him. Had he opted not to, he would not have the Gita. So Krishna, so compassionate, when Arjuna surrendered and told that he was a Shishya, then Krishna, the friend Krishna became the teacher Krishna, and he taught, and that is going to come. Then Arjuna's attraction to sannyasa we will read in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavadaha.